Hello, please meet today's guest, Paul Dorney.
The original team has come with me each time because we built that camaraderie together. Like we know who has gaps where, how we work well together. And my other thing is like educate yourself, especially if you're the technical side, educate yourself to get more well-rounded.
What do youth sports officials, home inspections, and college chatbots have in common? They're all industries that Paul Dorney has revolutionized through his serial founder journey. From Cork, Ireland to Charleston, South Carolina, Paul has built and exited companies in three completely different tech sectors, and he's got the battle scars and wisdom to prove it. In this episode, you'll hear how Paul left the comfort and piano music of SAS headquarters to co-found Silbo, the Uber for youth sports officials, and nearly missed filing a critical 83B election with just 48 hours to spare. We'll dive into his biggest startup revelation, that sometimes saying no is the most important business decision you can make, especially when you're tempted to expand too quickly. But what makes Paul's story compelling isn't just the three successful exits. It's his brutal honesty about the preconceptions that almost killed his companies. From believing if you build it, they will come, to learning that the best product doesn't always win, Paul shares the hard-earned lessons that transformed him from a technical founder into a serial entrepreneur who now leads teams through complex mergers and integrations. This is startup reality without the Silicon Valley fairy tales. And here's Paul. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, nice to meet you. Looking forward to chatting and thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Well, I think just with the short sentence you said, people are going to be able to guess the answer to this next question, which is, where are you originally from and where do you live now?
Yeah. Well, probably not as a lot of us here, but I'm originally from Ireland, from Cork. So always Cork first, Ireland second for Cork folks. And I live in South Carolina, so Charleston, right down by the water. So it's a rare mix. There is another Irish lad who works with me, who lives nearby. So I think we're the two Irish folks that live here. We've ran into one or two, but it's definitely a rarer occurrence than previously when I lived in Boston. We're a dime a dozen.
Yeah, they're a dime a dozen. All the cops are Irish.
Yeah. If I say y'all is the one that, as I've been told, that gives you the southernness, basically. If I keep saying y'all,
That's right.
I've only
That's
ever
right.
said it once, basically, so it hasn't stuck yet.
Okay, so we're going to talk a lot about startups and the different industries you've been in. But if we go back a little ways, you worked at a big company. So SAS is the name of the company. That's the one that's in Cary, North Carolina, right?
Yeah, that's correct. It's got the giant business park in Cary, North Carolina. It's like, I think it always ends up in like one or two of best places to work in the US. Super unique kind of area where on site they have like a hairdresser's, a doctor's office, two gyms, soccer fields, baseball fields, everything. Anything you need is cool. And then
I've been on that campus many times. And by the way, when you go to lunch, there's pianists that play music at lunch.
that was the strangest one. The first day I went for lunch, I was like, what is cool? I just thought it was like a colleague who just enjoyed playing the piano. And then it's like, oh no, they have that every day. So a pianist playing every day and you're like, whoa, that's wild. And then I think the claim to fame is Iron Man 3, that they used it for Tony Stark's offices. So that gives you an idea of how snazzy the newest buildings are.
Those were snazzy looking offices in the movie. So yeah.
Yeah.
So you left there. It's funny. This is probably a sign of being old, but when I look at the number 2016, I think that was just a short time ago.
Yeah.
But when you do the math, it's actually a lot longer than it seems like it. So you left there, right? That's when you left.
Yeah.
You'd
I
been
felt
there
it.
for a while.
Yeah.
Were you literally there on site or were you working remotely?
Yeah, no, I had moved to to Raleigh, North Carolina, and working in Cary in 2013. So I was on site for those 3 years. And then the end of 2016, after we had some success with a product and all went well, and one of my friends had an idea. Basically, the end of 2016, I decided I was going to leave the larger tech companies and do the whole leap before you look and see, can I build a company myself with two of my friends. It's a really cool experience because at SAS we got to build like a really impactful product that got great traction and all that stuff. And in my head I was always like, I wonder could I do this without the safety nets, if that makes sense. Because whatever you're building on at one of those large companies, it comes with certain stuff and there's always the kind of guidelines and all that jazz. So when we left in 2016, we had a crazy idea to um, try and democratize sports officiating, which sounds strange, but basically at the time, one of my friends had noticed that youth sports officials, he was always like, where do they come from? And as he dug into it, he realized there was a lot of parallels between the taxi industry with the dispatch systems, etc., like that, and Uber. So, everyone in 2016 was the Uber of. So we formed Silbo to become the Uber of youth sports officials. The idea being anything from like 5U up to 14U, any sports or sport agnostic. And the idea is there that we would bring qualified sports officials onto the platform, folks who are interested in becoming sports officials, we could get them trained up. And then we could go to tournaments, leagues, cities, and they could upload their schedules. And then geographical based in your area, you could see games that you're qualified to work. So the key being the qualified. If you were a certain level of like the US soccer referee, you saw certain games, etc., like that. So then you could go check in or reserve the game, check in, check out, get paid. It's kind of similar to like any other gig economy workspace. So really cool kind of experience there, because what we had noticed is, you read the news and it says that there's a shortage of officials, which there is, that could always do it more. But a lot of it was the segmentation. They kind of work for specific organizations, whereas what we were trying to do is democratize it, create that open platform where you could work where you want, when you want, and that they were in control of their schedules versus being sent to different locations. Really cool. I owned technology there. We expanded to 14 different markets, ran it for 4 years, learned a lot about baseball that I did not have a clue about as well, and a lot of different sports. I became a sports official as well, eat your own dog food type of thing to make sure it all worked, and got to officiate some soccer games. And then we traveled all around the country launching cities and stuff like that. So it was really cool until we did an exit in 2020 to NBC. Really cool experience.
You just called it soccer, so you've been
Uh, yeah, it's funny because my cousins in England kill me for that, but in Ireland a lot, because we have our own sport called Gaelic football. So growing up, a lot of times we call it soccer too, because we call football Gaelic football too. So it's kind of funny that they give Americans a lot of hard time for calling it soccer, whereas we kind of call it soccer as well.
that's so funny.
Yeah.
I had no idea that there was a Gaelic football.
Yeah, Gaelic football. Yeah, it's super fun. Gaelic football and hurling are kind of the national sports of Ireland. They're amateur based, but they're interesting. They actually play, it's in Canton up in Boston and stuff like that. And there's teams all around the country. I joke that the Gaelic Association of Ireland, I joke that they run the world. You can go to anywhere in the world and there'll be like a local team and people playing. So it's a lot of fun.
Well, knowing the Irish, I assume it's a brutal sport.
It's yeah, it is a lot of running. Can't play it. I would not be able to play it my current age, but when you're younger, yeah, it gets you super fit, and then a lot of fun. Obviously, the après games is always a lot of fun.
So, okay, so what was was everything peaches and cream in that company was called
It's Silbo.
Silbo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Spanish for
Was
whistle.
everything peaches and cream? If not, what went wrong?
No. It was definitely a great learning experience. Like a lot of stuff, we went into it bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, thinking like, "Hey, we're gonna change everything," if that makes sense. But like a lot of different challenges to solve, because we were basically in a delivery system where it was, we had to get someone from A to B on a certain time, and that comes with its own logistical challenges. So on the technology side, that's a fun challenge. How can we implement like alerting systems and etc. What third party services can we use? But on the people side, the gig economy space, you're like, and it doesn't matter if it was youth sports or like food delivery or everything, that you're dealing with people, and then it's a matter of how can you empower them to leverage your tools to get to where they need to get to, but also then keep your customers happy. Are they getting updated on time? How do you handle no shows? All that sort of stuff on the technology and delivery side. But then on the business side too, it's because it doesn't matter if our product's the best out there or what it is like, do we have our sales and marketing locked down? When we go in front of these leagues, can we deliver what we promise and stuff like that? So some of our biggest challenges, I think, was we made some mistakes that like I think every startup does, is we got interest from a few different cities or towns and tournaments, and we were like, we have to take it. We have to take it. Some of the biggest lessons I learned doing it is sometimes no is the right actual business decision. So I think we expanded sometimes at the start before we could handle that capacity, basically. That was one of some of the challenges. So, especially we started in the triangle area. So local, we could at least get to the fields ourselves. We could manage stuff like that. Kind of like how Uber took San Francisco first, but we quickly went to Florida because there was a big need down there. Probably about 8 to 9 months before we were ready to go down there. Even from the product side, it was before we had like the geolocation fully set up, everything like that. We were very much the kind of hustling startup of, hey, we'll figure it out on the fly. And we did figure it out. But I think for our health and stuff like that, it probably would have made more sense to be a little more strategic and understanding that we don't have to say yes to every opportunity that came in the door. So that was definitely one of the challenges. And then just the usual kind of growth challenges as well on the fundraising side. So it's interesting. I had no background in that before we started, and I was involved as a founder. I was involved in all of that, and some of the challenges there are just like you believe in it, you're seeing traction, you want to go there, but the VCs have the carrot. Hey, once you hit this, we'll chat to you. Once you hit this, we'll chat to you. So that was one of the other kind of challenges. Is it was a less sexy market, is the best way to put it. Youth sports officials, then it's not like AI right now, or at the time the blockchain was big. So if you just put blockchain in front of everything, everyone was super excited. Whereas with us, we were very much, they knew it was going to be kind of like a land fight, a knife fight into each area, low growth and stuff like that. But once you had the flywheel, it was magic. But they were happy to kind of step back and wait for us to solve that problem and then come in. Versus initially being like, oh, cool, this is an idea. You see some folks get funded with like really cool ideas, and they have then the capital to work. We were very much kind of nitty gritty, roll our sleeves up, generate the revenue was helping generate like business. And then we started getting the funding, and that definitely helped.
Did you three co-founders all get along just fine the whole way through?
Like we're still all friends now, and like we still actually was chatting to them yesterday, so we're still all there. But I definitely think during times we probably each, and it was never like one versus one versus one. I think at all times it was almost like a rotating cast where I'm guessing one of us wanted to murder the other and vice versa for different reasons. So there was definitely some I always joke as well, when we were starting out, we kind of said like, hey, this is like a marriage. Not that any of us were married at the time. We were like, this is like a marriage. There's going to be days we want to like kill each other. And that was, some of our advisors were awesome. They said that. They were like, hey, some days you're not even want to be in the same room as the person, but you have to remember why you're starting it, what the mission is, and that, life will go on post company. So just always bear that in mind. So my advice to any founders there are, make sure you can be around your founders even when you might want to kill them and stuff like that, and always try and fight, always be like proactive with the communication if stuff is frustrating. As long as everyone's pulling their own weight, that's the most important thing in my mind. And I was lucky there where my founders, everyone had a different skill set, so we all pitched in. And I always like look at it as almost like a band. No one wanted to be a solo artist, and each brought a specific flavor to the team. That, like, one of the founders, Daniel, amazing at sales. I wouldn't have been able to get these contracts ahead of time when we were very much like, ideation. Hey, do we know how this is going to work? He was able to sell it amazingly. And then Brendan, who is our CEO, was amazing at being able to like cultivate those investor relationships. He had the marketing background as well, so he helped us on that side and stuff. So we each had a kind of a different flavor. And then, sometimes we probably thought that one person we should be spending more time over here versus here, and that's where sometimes we were at loggerheads with each other. But eventually we all came around, and it was funny, as the company grew and there was more of us, those challenges were actually went away, because we remember we were in, like, as we think, for want of a better word, we were all in the foxhole at the beginning together, when there was just an idea and a piece of paper, no lines of code, all that sort of stuff. So when there was challenges, we always had each other's backs and stuff like that. So I was pretty lucky there.
And are you familiar with the concept of a tax form called an A B, which is what founders you are?
Yeah. So I was not aware of that initially, and I think I can't remember now. Is it 30 or 90 days you get? But whatever it was we had 48 hours to file it before before we missed the window. Basically, we were kind of going about our business, and so I forget, it was one of the folks in like a co-working space in Raleigh mentioned something. He's like, still kind of crazy. You got to mail in your 83B, and we were like, Yeah, yeah. We're like, what's that? And we Googled it and we're like, damn. And then we got it in on time.
Good. That's good. It's weird that such a critical thing for founders to do, to know about, is still quite obscure.
Yeah. It's what it's wild when you think of it. Like you're like, yeah, when I think of it, because we were in a mad dash to get to the post office, get it registered, all of that stuff. And you're like, how is this not like step one of like when you read like, hey, this is what you need to do, or when you're starting out, basically you're getting your LLC formed and all that stuff.
Yeah, but see, once you've done it once and you like almost, don't get it done in time, and you know about it and you do it on day one, exactly on day one.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, so it's one of those ones you don't know until you don't know. And that was what was funny. I had watched the show Silicon Valley before I started Silbo, and it's still amazing to watch, even if you don't know all the little nuances. But then when you're watching it and you hear like little nuggets like that, or the 4A stuff like that, and you're like, oh yeah, yeah. So it's super interesting as you go back through the journey, like certain stuff that you take for granted or you just glaze over, and then you're like, these are actually critically important for the housekeeping of the company.
Well, final question about Silbo would be, so did that sale to NBC do well for you guys?
Yeah, our investors were happy is the best way I put it, but it didn't mean I got to go travel the world and go live in Bora Bora. But it was a really cool experience where we consulted for a while. The idea was they were taking our technology platform, adding it on to Sports Engine, and then rejigging it a little bit to add in some volunteer work. Because coolly, you know, the kind of best way, like when you think of like legacy Twitter and the hashtags, is our users started using the product in ways we hadn't anticipated. So we were basically nuts and bolts for sports officials, and we handle the payments and all that jazz. But what they started using it for is event staff and volunteers and stuff like that, where ticket takers and everything like that. And we were like, oh well, we hadn't thought about that. So our platform kind of expanded, and that's what NBC saw, is that's what they wanted to use it for, Sports Engine basically. So with the sale too, going through the due diligence, that was a really cool learning experience too. So working with their team, and adding different stuff into like into our pipelines, and like going through some code reviews and some different technology deep dives and stuff like that. It was really, really cool experience, and made some really good friends through that too. So the folks that were acquiring it, guy Brandon, who I am still friends with and I chat to, he's gone on to a few different other companies. We still kind of spitball ideas and stuff like that. So overall, very positive experience.
So you did sports tech, I guess would be what that's called, right?
Yeah.
And you've done fill in the blank tech in two other areas since
Yeah.
then.
Yeah, so after Silbo, I kind of was trying to figure out what I wanted to do next. Like, did we want to start another company? Did I want to kind of go into a larger company, go back, or what I wanted to do basically? One of my investors had been invested in a company in proptech at the time, and it was very similar setup to Silbo, two-sided marketplace where it was connecting homeowners with trades professionals. And basically, what they were trying to do was take the analog home inspection service, ingest that data, extract it out, run it through their algorithms to produce a very simple one-page digital estimate of, hey, here's the stuff that you need to get done to your house. So, when you're buying a house or if you're selling a house, you've got these little punch list items. So it basically was automating that process. And then if you were in one of the markets they worked in, kind of similar to Silbo, you could basically one click, hey, I want to get that work done. So instead of you having to chase down someone for your HVAC, your electrical, your plumbing, your roof, punch list manage all of that process itself. So it was kind of this really cool project manager for your home as well. So super easy to use, really cool experience. And the initial plan was to go down, meet the team, kind of help stabilize some of the tech, almost like a consultant. And then I really hit it off with the new CEO, and the existing legacy team were here in Charleston, and I still live here because of all of them. So really hit it off. We had an office downtown. There was like 23 of us, I think, when I joined, and within like 18 months, it got up to 160 people, gone from like single digits revenue to north of 70 million. It was like super hyper growth. So really cool experience. And as part of that, it was, how do we keep this, keeping the systems online, keeping the scaling with how fast the company was growing, and then also building for the future, because there was a big data play that could have been, that was actively being worked on too was we were consuming all of this home inspection data. As like, hey, there's a way we can actually take this, monetize it, leverage it in predictive analytics around what could be needed for your home, depending on like your flood zone, where you are geographically, etc., like that. So really cool experience. And it was a different experience too, is from because this the company had been founded by folks here in Charleston, a tradesman and a real estate agent, and they had really cool, unique insights into it too. But they also did a really cool thing of like they hired some top quality operators. So when I got down, it was kind of fun. Like I knew nothing about prop tech at the time, or a lot about home repairs and stuff. And you had like really amazing subject matter experts in house who like ran their businesses like it was their own companies type of stuff. So it was a really cool experience. And think we're all still friends who worked at that company. A lot of folks have moved on and stuff like that. The company now, I think it's I don't know how many people are there at the moment. I left at the end of 2023 to go into an AI company, but everyone there, it's kind of one of those ones you're friends for life from working at it. So it's really cool.
So in both cases, you had somebody that knew the market that you were then building a product for. So, someone, in my experience, someone has to be that person or a couple people. You can still be a founder and not completely know the market if your piece of the puzzle is like, for example, building the product. As long as you have somebody that's involved with the definition of the product and what's, a minimum viable product who does know that market, then it can all work out. But, I've been in a situation where none of us knew. We had only people that knew the product. And then this was a classic example of, well, if we build it, they will come,
Yeah.
and they never do. Hi there. I hope you're enjoying the show. In addition to the podcast, you might also be interested in the online program I have created for startup founders called Who Says You Can't Startup. In it, I've tried to capture everything I've learned in the course of founding and running 9 startups over 37 years with no constraints like there were with my book, Tech Startup Toolkit. The program is 4 courses, each one about 15 video lessons, plus over 30 high-value downloadable resources. Each course individually is only $375. The QR code will take you where you can learn more. Now, back to the podcast. That's good. Now, there was a third one,
Yes,
another
yeah,
tech, something tech.
exactly. So a whole different market then. So as we with Punch List, and it got rebranded to Bosscat. After when I was in there, I kind of had a hankering to go back to my roots from SaaS, with the AI, NLP, etc., natural language processing. And with everything that was happening in AI at the time, I was kind of looking at an opportunity where I was like, okay, I want to get my teeth around that and work and like get out of the two-sided marketplace and actually work on a pure product. And that's when I went into edtech, which was not something I thought I was going to go into, but it was, again, another interesting experience because I didn't go to college in the US. So it was definitely it still is a learning experience for me. So joined a company called Ocelot. The idea there is it's a communication platform for higher education. So if you go to a university's website, you'll see the little chat bot in the bottom right. So that's for the students for information so that they can be best served. And then behind the scenes, there's a platform for the university staff basically to manage their text messaging, live chat, and their actual chat, their virtual assistants, as we call them. And in there too, being able to have like the predictive analytics to determine like the pulse of the campus, how everyone's getting on, and what's the general sentiment, etc., like that. And some of the stuff we're working on too was like the predictive analytics on retention and how to identify students at risk and everything like that. So in there was actually part of the remit was coming in and helping lead the team as they were going through upgrading the AI basically from what had previously been built to leveraging some of the newer LLMs, etc., the different models that were out there so that we could modernize it to kind of keep up and jump forward to where the industry was going. So really cool experience there. And funnily enough, at the end of the first year there, it was another kind of exit. We basically merged with a company called Gravity and Ivy. So one of our competitors was called Ivy, very similar kind of space to ourselves. And then Gravity is more on the alumni engagement fundraising side. So what it was the end of last year, we did a merger where all three companies came together. And as part of that experience, really cool. First time that I had gone through that was I was given the task of being CTO to integrate the three different companies. So that's been my world for the last year. A whole different space as well than building your product, getting it out there, getting product market fit and stuff like that. This is definitely more of the what you call it, the day-to-day kind of integrations, strategic planning for the future, identifying where there can be kind of overlap work, organizing the team, etc., like that. So cool experience, and getting to learn more about the alumni side of the house as well at the moment, and edtech and the unique needs that are needed there, especially around different laws that can be passed and stuff like that, and how we manage to handle all of that.
Sounds like you've really got the startup bug.
Yeah, yeah. That's true. A lot of different experiences from, like, as I joke, lighting the fire yourself, going into someone else's fire and making the flame bigger, and then the other one is bringing some fires together. It's the best way I would put it, to create a bigger one.
To
So
make a total conflagration.
yeah, that's it. So, and it's cool because I don't like. It's an interesting journey, but I don't think I could have gone into where I am now without the middle part with Bosscat and stuff like that, and vice versa. I don't. If I had gone into punchless Bosscat, like say straight from SaaS, I think I would have just drowned basically because I hadn't gotten those reps at Silbo basically where a lot of times it was we don't know how to do this. Cool, we'll just go figure it out. Or like I wasn't what I call like in operations or rev ops or anything like that. Cool, got to read every book there is on it and figure it out because there's only eight of us, and I need to figure out how to launch a city basically. So it's kind of really cool experience because it stretched the tech nerd in me to actually learn more about like finance, marketing, operations, like the classic founder wear many hats type of thing, which I think stands to me as I go into different companies now, because I always joke I'm the janitor. Like I'll just take on any of the bad tasks or like the lower trash tasks so that you can empower folks to work on the cool stuff. But that comes from the Silbo days where it was like, all right, cool, we need this. Myself and my fellow founders would be like, cool, we'll learn how to do that. Whether it's like cold calling referees to see if they want to join the platform or anything in between. We were happy to take that on, which is the startupiness that I think is what I look for as well when I'm looking for folks to join my teams and stuff like that. It's kind of that Angela Duckworth grit, hey, are you willing to just roll your sleeves up, get it done, basically?
Are there any preconceived notions you had in the very early days about startups that you don't believe anymore?
Actually, I think you touched on something that resonates with me is, hey, if I just build it, they'll come. Like the best product wins. Like it's if you just have the best product, then cool, it's all set. It's just guaranteed. And I always think of it as like, if a tree falls in a forest, if you could have the best product ever, but realistically, without sales and marketing, no one's going to know about it, right? So I think I definitely underappreciated those at the start, where I just thought, no, it's all about product and engineering. Like, this is X faster than this. That's all that matters. And realistically, people don't care. So if you have like an elite level of marketing and sales, that, and an average product, that's going to beat an elite product and average sales and marketing from what I other preconceived notions I think as well it was around like the risk profile. I know when I left SaaS, everyone said I was crazy because like there's an average tenure of like north of 20 years there. I assumed as well it would be a lot easier to find folks who just wanted to dive in, build startups and stuff like that. But that was a little harder I think the triangle has grown a lot now, but that was a little harder to identify folks who are willing to kind of take that leap as well, which is something I probably didn't appreciate in myself, or like the risk profile I had, versus some other folks. So those are some of my preconceived notions. I just assumed everyone wanted to do it because I always wanted to do it.
One of the things we try to do here is give advice to startup founders. So what advice would you give a first-time founder thinking back to your Silbo days about building a tech team?
So, no, great question. I go back and forth in a few of it. I default as well to a lot of reading and stuff like that, which I know is not as a sexy sounding or like the silver bullet that folks want to hear. But there's a few different things. So, like on the technology side, building your team, it's a few things would be making sure that you have your structures in place, and like exactly what you want from your teammates, because everything's going to change. Your product's going to change and everything like that. but understand what type of profile it is that you want people to come in, and also be honest with yourself of like where you have gaps. Not everyone can do everything. Basically, like, are you strong on front end, mid tier? Do you need some DevOps help and stuff like that? And that's kind of how I approach it first, because like your first probably 2 to 3 hires should be generalists who can kind of dive in and do everything. But it's important that you have like ultimate trust with each other as well. So that's a part of like the building it and making sure that like celebrate the small wins, right? Like shipping fast, getting something out there. A lot of times you can be like, oh my God, we have 50 more things to do. But you need to celebrate those small things, because it's the journey is the most valuable thing, I think, of being as part of a startup. Like everyone wants that exit at the end, but it's actually the journey. You look back and like make sure that you appreciate it with your team and build that culture, because culture is hard to build and easy to lose. And it sounds kind of like wishy-washy, but it's like having those small wins, because everyone's going to be probably working a lot more than they would in an enterprise. That's just when I interviewed people, I always said, look, this isn't a 9 to 5. This is a 9 to getting it done, basically role. But it's celebrate those wins, build that relationship. I've gone into 3 different companies now, and my original team has come with me each time, because we built that camaraderie together. Like we know who has gaps where, how we work well together. And my other thing is like educate yourself, especially if you're the technical side. Educate yourself to get more well-rounded. Like The Secrets of Sand Hill Road is a great book on like VC investing. I knew nothing on it, and I recommend like getting knowledge on that, because you're going to be pulled into fundraising meetings regardless, and understanding like the atmosphere, how to handle them, what they're looking for, why they're looking for it. Like a lot of times on the technology side, it's like, oh, but I just write code and it works, whatever. And people have seen The Social Network and they think that's how it all goes, or whatever. So I think like educating yourself, reading different books, understanding too, like, what different skill sets bring to the team. Because if you're coming from larger companies, or if you're coming straight out of college, you mightn't appreciate all the stuff that, say, a customer success manager has to do, a CS person, things like that. So my thing is, for technology leaders, is also to make sure that the customer is in the room with you, like not literally, but like making sure that you're not building in a box. Like have that voice of the customer, even as you're building your team. Make sure that your engineers know that, hey, the customer's voice matters. Customer success, meet with them regularly. And a lot of times it could be yourself. You'll be talking to yourself, but making sure you're actually bringing that information into the team as you build it, so that the team can understand that cadence too of like, hey, it's important what we're doing, but it's also important that we're listening to what the customers like, what they don't like. And that'll help frame your product direction too. It doesn't have to it's not the tail that wags the dog, but it's important that they're in the room. And as you build a team, that the engineering team understand that you're one team. Sometimes I've come in places and I've seen fiefdoms. It's important to break down those, I think, at the start, because the best ideas come from everywhere, basically. So making sure that the team you're building is open, transparent, trustworthy. That's kind of my advice to folks. And just read as many books as you can, or blogs, and kind of pick what works for you, like frameworks, like, whether it's agile, shape ups, or whatever. Make sure the framework that you want to set your team up in works for you, and that you're not just copying something because company A did it, but it doesn't work for your team. Make sure that you're adaptable, and that you come up with a framework that empowers you, makes you be able to like deliver the velocity that you need.
I think with that question, I think with that question, I got the Irishman talking really fast.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So people might want to slow that one
That's
down.
okay. That's okay. That was a fire hose, but that's okay. That's
Yeah,
okay.
there was a lot of good.
Hey, so last topic is, so it's kind of cool that you mentioned Angela Duckworth. She's kind of real important to me, because I spend a lot of time thinking about and talking about and writing about grit. And so, what is your source of grit? What is your grit story? Tell us that.
Oh, where I think my grit comes from. Is that me?
Yeah.
Think I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting one, because when we're trying to hire, we always try and think like we're trying to measure people's grit, and it's kind of like almost immeasurable or whatever. For me, I don't know how best to do it. Is just like I always like being told I can't do something, and that motivates me or whatever. I don't know where that comes from and all that sort of stuff. So like being told like you can't do this, you can't hit this deadline, you can't do it. That that's the kind of fuel to my fire. And that's been since I was a little kid, basically. So the more I'm told I can't do something, the more I want to do it, basically. So yeah.
You know why I'm laughing right now? Can you see this book over here?
The tech startup toolkit, is it?
Right next to it.
No, no, I can't see it. A deadly class.
So that is like my mantra. Who says I can't? In
Yeah.
fact, up there, I can't get it. I can't reach it for you. But it's the United States of America trademark in the phrase, who says I can't?
See, I love that. And that's I didn't realize that about myself, I suppose. I just always assumed everyone's like that. And then when we were doing Silbo, one of my co-founders, I heard him say that one time. He just one word he used was like relentless, and in my head I was like, because we had a crazy deadline, and like it didn't look like we were going to hit it, and I was like, what? We can? Why can't we? Like, why can't we? And he's like, because it's not feasible. I was like, why not? Like, and when you break it down, like, was that saying like there's you either can or you can't. You're going to be right either way. So just keep going, keep doing it. So that's I think the big thing is just I don't know. And it might be as well. Like I grew up playing like those Irish sports and then rugby and stuff like that, where you're not necessarily on the ball all the time and stuff like that, and you just got to dig in and kind of do some of the dirty work, which and then the team wins. So I think that helps too. So maybe maybe that was what helped shape me playing some rugby.
I don't know. I think Irish just that's right there is a big part of just you could just say, where's my grit come from? I'm friggin' Irish.
Yeah, true. That's true. We all survive, so we're just Irish, and we're just like we're just gonna get it done. Basically, that's the that's
Well,
where.
I'm going to tell you one who says I can't story of mine, which was so I started saying this because when I was 16, I lost my leg, and people were telling me all the things I can't do,
Yeah.
and it was relentless. It was actually shameful the way they did it. So I fought back, all that. And then I had my sports that I got good at with one leg. Skiing and swimming were the main ones. And then one day, somebody at work was going to do a 4-day bike ride, fundraiser bike ride from Boston to New York City, and asked if I would contribute for the fundraiser. And I said, of course I will. It was a good cause. And I was just so impressed. This young lady was athletic, but this was beyond what she'd ever done. And then later I was bragging about her to some of my team. I was the CEO, the senior team. And one of them said, you sound so excited about this. It's too bad you can't do that. So I bought a bike that afternoon. I trained like a mother.
Yeah.
And the next year I did it on one leg without a knee. You can't really wear a prosthetic. It's not safe even. It doesn't help you at all. So I did the ride from Boston to New York.
Oh.
I was scared out of my mind when, I trained hard, but when you go from here to New York, you go through some very steep hills. Well, you're on the back roads, of course. Now the freeways, they smoothed it out. And so you hardly notice but there's some significant hills in Connecticut.
Genie.
And I get to the first one, and all the two-legged people are bunching up at the bottom of the hill, and they're starting to walk their bikes up. That made me more nervous. It's like, oh my God, because there's no option for me to hop up the hill.
Yeah.
And if I don't make it up the hill at the midway point, what do I do then? I got to go back down to get back on my bike if I come out of the pedal. So there was no option but to just bear down and gut it out. And I started passing two-leggers who are walking. And then I couldn't figure out what was going on and what was happening behind me because I passed them. They were all getting back on their bikes. They said, well, if he can do it, and they thanked me later for motivating them to work harder.
That's
and
awesome.
so that's my who says I can't.
Yours wins by a country mile. That is epic. I love that too, and it's inspiring. Fair play to you. That's unbelievable.
Well,
but I love that you went past and people were like, because that's sometimes people need to see that, right? They need to see someone who's like just relentless and hey, I'm going to do it no matter what, and then that drags everyone with them.
Well, and I've used that whole gestalt in my startups, because basically nothing in the startup can ever be as hard as what I've already been through and conquered. And that really helps. And that's why I think all startup founders have to have grit. It's their fuel. It's their power, right?
Yeah, I agree with you. That's
And
yeah.
I don't imagine you'll ever go back to a big company.
No, that's the thing. It's and it's funny. A few of my friends who from big companies who've left to go to startups, I was explaining to them like how addictive it is. And I remember like two of them had left and they'd gone to a startups like Series B, Series A, Series B companies, and instantly they were like, "Oh my god, I should have done this like 6 years, 5 years, 10 years earlier." It's like this is way better when you're in the right one. There's just like an energy in the team, and it's just exciting and stuff like that. So that's I remember like at my startup, it was like you didn't want to close your laptop, right? You're just like, oh, cool, next problem, next problem. So that's the kind of energy that startups bring, the right ones when you're around the right people.
What I've discovered is that even the bad ones, I don't mean it
Yeah.
was a bad experience, but I mean it didn't have a good outcome. But the 9/10 of the time was a joyful experience. And it's a certain amount of it is control over your own destiny. Another is the energy in the team, and a lot of that comes from it's a team built out of trust. You talk about the way you did it. I've sort of instituted a policy when I start a new company, which is in the first 25 employees, I say to everybody, we'll hire no strangers, meaning we're not going to go recruit. We're
Yeah.
going to use who we know because we've done this before. We're going to pull them in. They're going to pull who they trust
Yeah.
in, and you trust them by association. Well, someone
Yeah.
I really trust them. And you quickly get to 25 without having had to go outside of your community. Now that doesn't work on your first one
No, but I love that
usually.
idea though. That's awesome. But yeah, that's I'm gonna have to borrow that. That's a great one.
Well, you can borrow any of it because one of my thank you gift to you is going to be a copy of this book.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
My
But
sister
thank you
says
so
I'm
much.
so far.
Seriously, Paul.
No, thanks so much. This has been great fun. And congratulations on all your success as well. I'm excited for that book. I know I was going to buy it and you said to wait till we've done the chat because I'll have it. So I'm excited to read it and then pick your brain on some other stuff.
Great. Great. Well, we're now friends. Thanks again. This was a very good episode.
Legend. Thank you very much, sir. Have a good one.
Now your startup founder toolkit. Number 1, master the art of strategic no. Paul's biggest mistake was saying yes to every opportunity that came their way, expanding to Florida before they were ready. Learn to recognize the difference between good opportunities and right time opportunities. Sometimes the most profitable decision is turning down revenue that would stretch your team beyond capacity. Your first instinct should be to say no, then make them convince you why it should be yes. Number 2, don't fall for the best product wins myth. Paul initially believed that having the superior technical solution guaranteed success, a costly assumption. In reality, an elite marketing and sales team with an average product will consistently outperform an elite product with average go-to-market execution. Spend as much energy on your sales and marketing strategy as you do on your product development from day one. And number 3, build your team like a band, not an orchestra. Paul's secret weapon has been building teams where everyone brings a distinct, irreplaceable skill set, like band members, rather than interchangeable orchestra players. His core team has followed him across multiple companies because they've developed unshakable trust and complementary expertise. Hire for unique strengths that create interdependence, not just competence that creates replaceability. Now go find your band members, those people who complement your weaknesses and amplify your strengths, because like Paul discovered, the right team will follow you from startup to startup, turning every new venture into a reunion tour. That is our show with Paul. The show notes contain useful resources and links. Please follow and rate us at podchaser.com/designing successful startups. Also, please share and like us on your social media channels. This is Jothy Rosenberg saying, TTFN, ta-ta for now.